Hi everybody, welcome to another session. This session I've named Orchestrating Your Supply Chain. So what does that actually mean? Well, if we look at Oliver White and various other approaches to sales and operational planning and other business planning methodologies, we often talk about it in different levels of maturity, from reacting, which basically means taking basic transactional data and reacting to it as problems occur, to anticipating, getting real-time supply chain demand signals and actually working with that. Collaborating is obviously taking that to multiple levels outside your own organization and within it. And finally to orchestrating, which basically means bringing everything together from full end-to-end visibility. You can do real-time data analysis from a financial perspective and everything else, but also bringing together everything within your entire supply chain. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of look at this in a slightly different way. And when we think about orchestrating, we obviously think about orchestras and how they all work together. So I'm going to use this as an analogy to talk a little bit about how we can understand what orchestrating means as opposed to simply reacting. So if you think about an orchestra, obviously there are lots and lots of moving parts here. You've got lots of people playing different instruments, lots of people obviously doing different things at the same time, and we need to make sure that everything is working as it should. Now, of course, in a normal organization, all our workers and our people and our systems and solutions and production facilities and everything else are working as hard as they can there, beavering away, making sure they're doing the right thing. But it's really important when we think about bringing this together from a supply chain, from obviously the chain from beginning to end, is that there is one person actually orchestrating it to make sure that it's being conducted in the right way. And this is where our conductor comes in, making sure that he can see everything for the entire musical instruments, to the people and everything else, and make sure that everything's happening as it should. And of course, keeping pace. So let's have a look at what that looks like in the system. So let's go and play. So while we're actually obviously performing and our supply chain is happening, what we want to be able to do, of course, is be able to see exactly what's going on inside the supply chain. And this is where our supply chain visibility comes in. So what we can do here is we can actually go into our supply chain visibility and take a look at what's happening straight away. So let me just bring this up for you, just showing this real time so you can see how quick it is and easy it is to see this type of information. I can select different alerts, locations, materials and everything else. So while the orchestra is performing, in other words, while the supply chain is happening, what my system is doing is it's looking at everything that's happening real time in the system so I can see what's actually happening in the real world. So now I can see a global view of what's happening. Let me just make this a little bigger. And I can see across my supply chain what's actually happening and where things are maybe not happening as they should. So I can see here in the United States, this area, I've got some alerts coming through, and obviously the alerts are shown by these little numbers here. So I can scroll down into this area and see what's going on. I can go down here and see that my Seattle DC has got a couple of alerts against it, and I can drill down into them to see what's going on in the system and everything else. And of course I can see my supply chain because I can see everything being linked together from beginning to end. So let me just use a couple of slides here to talk you through a scenario as part of this. So when we get back to my PowerPoint here. So if we start off by looking at obviously the global view, I can see my alerts and everything, and I can drill down into those alerts. I just showed you real time there, so we can actually see what's going on. So this particular location, I've got a couple of alerts. I can go into it, and I can see that in this particular case, these sales orders are not going to be fulfilled because we don't have enough stock, or there's too much demand to actually get them done. So I can see those sales orders straight away and see exactly what's going on and what the problem is. Now, the beautiful thing about this, because it's real-time data, live system and everything else, if I want to, I can go and look at those sales orders and maybe try and move them and see what we can see where the issue is and those types of things, and maybe talk to the customer and push the data out and those types of things. If you want to see more sales orders, have a look at my sales and distribution video. But also I can look at the resource overload that's causing the shortfall as well. So what's actually happening? Why can't we make the stock? So I can actually go from here and I can go into the production scheduling and actually see, okay, we've got a bit of an overload here. We've got not enough happening at that particular supply location for this production plan. Maybe I could move production either forwards or backwards and level it out so that I can actually make things happen. So As the orchestra, the conductor there is actually looking at not just the running of the business, making sure everything's happening as it should, but also fixing problems as they happen. I can wave my baton around and say to the drummer, hey, slow down a little bit or speed up, and actually orchestrate as we go through that supply chain. But our conductor friend here, there's a lot more going on in his life. He's not just always playing. When the band isn't actually playing, there's maintenance to be done. There are services to take care of. Who's looking after the instruments and the bands and everything else that's happening. We have to make sure that we've got everything, all the equipment we need, the parts and raw materials, and of course all the important resources and people. So how do we manage all of this in the system? We've also got vendors, supplying bits and pieces to us. And of course, we've got transport, both of the people being moved around because the orchestra is moving around, and also the equipment too. So all of these different factors and elements need to be orchestrated together. It's not just while the band's playing, it's also about planning what's going to happen into the future. Now, of course, it's really great to be able to see this real-time data and again be able to see all those different elements from maintenance, from transport to raw materials and everything. We can now see that in one place, which is fantastic. And again, we can get those alerts where things are not happening as they should. So let's say from a transport point of view, I've got my transport receipts happening. I can see I've got various alerts here telling me that, hey, they're not being receipted as they should. So I can drill down into those alerts and see, what's the biggest problem here? What's actually causing this issue? We can see, okay, it's this particular material. We can drill down into it and actually say, okay, what's going on? What's happening? Where is the supply chain? Where is the blockage here, and what's actually going on with it? So that allows me to see that data real time across all those different elements within my supply chain and make sure they're working as they should. Now, obviously, in real life, things are moved around. So stuff moves around. So it's important for us to actually look at those materials and those movements in the system. And one of the nice updates we've done in the system is we now can bring in our transportation management status. So what that allows us to do is not just look at numbers, but also look at events and how those events interact date-wise on what's actually happening in our supply chain. So now in our intelligent visibility, we can display transportation management documentation flows, such as the status and everything else. We can also see the various gating factors. Is it going to get there on time? If not, let's have an alert on that. And of course, really importantly, we can navigate to that transportation document from IBP so we can actually see what's going on. What was the event? Who's the carrier? Can I contact them, see what's happening? And this allows me to get real-time insights into my supply chain to make sure everything's happening as it should, which is fantastic. But let's not forget Mr. Conductor here. He's still got a job to do, not only in the supply chain of the orchestra itself, but also the playing and everything else while it's happening. But it's important for our conductors to plan. Now, people don't often realize that there's a lot more to a conductor's life than just playing with the band. It's important for the conductor to make many, many decisions about, first of all, who is going to be playing in the band and what's the best instruments and arrangements and everything else that they need. Also, what kind of music are we going to play? What do people want to hear? What's going to bring the punters in the door so we can actually make some money out of this? So the conductor has to make many, many decisions. And these decisions will fall, if we think about this from a supply chain perspective, in many different buckets. And those really fall within strategic planning, tactical planning, and operational planning. What's the difference between them? Strategic planning, obviously much long-term. Tactical planning, more shorter-term, and operational is real-time, happening right now based on transactional data. And these elements fall within multiple silos or lines of business within your organization. So obviously we've got sales and marketing, executives, finance, and supply chain. And what SAP's Integrated Business Planning software does is essentially it brings all these together so we can see all those different elements for all those different levels of strategic planning. So our conductor here can actually go in and do excuse me, real-time simulation and real-time planning to say, what would happen if we did a promotion on this particular item here, and let's bump it up to how much to make it cheaper or anything else. I can then have a look at what that means for my supply plan. It allows me to do my rough cut capacity planning based on those assumptions as well. So, what would happen if I need more? Can we make it? We can do what if scenarios and rapid decision making against different key figures in here as well. So let me go and take a look at that for a moment. So let's jump back into the system here. I just need to come out of here for a moment. Back to the home page. And what we're going to do first of all is we're going to look at this idea of a planner workspace. A planner workspace is where we can see the data that the system is working off and actually take a look at it, change the data, manipulate it, so on and so forth. So in this case, this is a demand review, and the demand review would have mostly come from a statistical forecasting methods and everything else to show us what's going on for our local demand for different products. So in this case, I've got a product family 300 and an individual product of 300 as well. I've got 300, 310 and 320 different materials, and I can see the actual demand plan, so on and so forth from here. But the nice thing about this is I can also go and add different scenarios. So let's go into a version or a scenario here. And what I want to do here is to add the promotion scenario. And the promotion that's going in here is I'm introducing a new product, and this new product is a new e-bike that I'm putting in, a new promotion that's happening. So let's select that guy. Oops, excuse me. Let me do that again. Not quite sure what happened there. New bike. All good. And what we're going to do is to make sure we've got enough capacity for this bike. So what I can do here is I can select that now, and what will happen if I click on the go button is we will now add multiple key figures for that individual product that's being introduced. So once this refreshes here, we'll be able to see that the new numbers appear both against the baseline scenario and of course the new bike scenario as well. So let me just come back to the beginning here. Here we go. Oh, actually, I forgot to add the baseline. So at the moment, we can see the new the new bike scenario, but let's go and add the baseline as well. And my apologies, I forgot to include that in the list there. So let's go and add that just to show you how easy this is to do. Let's click on the go button again, and then it will be able to show us the comparison between those two scenarios. So here we go now. So I've got product 300, I've got my baseline demand plan, and I've got my new introduction plan. So what I can do, of course, is I can go and change these numbers. Say, I think this month that's going to be a massive difference because I'm introducing and promoting a new item. I can change those scenarios and play about with it as I see fit. So the idea of the scenarios, of course, is we can change them and add them. What would happen if I did that? I can then run and simulate things against them to say, okay, what's that going to do to our capacity and all that kind of stuff. And if I want to, I can create scenarios on the fly. So I can manage my existing scenarios. It's saying I'm going to lose my data there, which is fine because I'm just showing you the idea. Let me just go here again. I might just need to refresh the screen for a moment. Let me just do that here. Yep, that's fine. I don't want to save my changes. And then I can go into manage my scenarios, and you can see that I have many scenarios in here which can hold different levels of data based on what I want to compare against. So if I want to create a new scenario, I can go into create scenario here, give it a name and everything else, and then I get a new set of key figures like this, which I can use to compare against the baseline in the system. So what that allows us to do is to compare different scenarios, change data, and have a look at them. And of course, not just in the numbers point of view, but I can also do that graphically or analytically as well. So if I come out of here for a second, I can go and have a look at my dashboard, and let's say I'm doing promotions. I can look at my promotion management in here and see what would happen to my supply chain if I had this new promotion going in and actually making a change. So of course in our dashboards we can see nice things around all kinds of different analytics and things like that. But if I just scroll down to the bottom here, what we'll be able to see is, with my different versions, or my scenarios, I should say in here, what I can do is compare those scenarios against each other to see which one's going to make me the most money. So if I just expand that, we can actually compare those together. So if I was to just keep on the baseline version, I've got a certain amount of revenue there, But if I was to optimize it, I'm going to make a little bit less money. But if I add an extra shift to add this, to fulfill this promotion, I can see there that the company is actually going to make more revenue, or in this case, more operating margin, I should say. So the idea of a comparison against these scenarios is really, really powerful, because I can create the scenarios on the fly, see what would happen, and then compare them against each other, both from a fiscal point of view and a numbers point of view for demand planning, supply planning, and everything else. So what that allows me to do, of course, is to make those hard decisions, but not just make them based on finger in the air and meetings. We can make them based on data and simulation, so we know exactly what's going on, and of course make the best decision from that. Once we're happy with that scenario, the beautiful thing about that is I can promote that into the base version, and it then becomes the new form of truth, i.e. it is the data that the system is working off. So that allows me to make those important decisions as the conductor, to say this is what we should be doing, these are the areas we need to concentrate on, and actually have that happening. So to wrap up there, we like to keep these short, these sessions. So the idea, of course, is we want to be improving. So from basic sales forecasting, we want to be moving to demand sensing and improving customer experience, and of course the circular economy. From a visibility point of view, we want to be able to do mass production, mass customization, and everything else. And from an innovation point of view, we want to be driving intelligent analysis and predictive and agile ecosystems. And that's what the solution allows us to do across this platform, using its machine learning and its analytics, and of course that full connectivity from end to end, both the ERP and all our suppliers, transportation, and everything else. Ultimately, what does that do? That gives us total visibility across our supply chain, allowing us to be the conductor of the supply chain, seeing the whole orchestra from start to finish, and being able to conduct it in the best way possible, and of course get the best result with a beautiful performance. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to see more, we've got more videos available on this channel. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you very much.